Hello, everyone. It is I, Blue Cyber Studios. Now, today I'm going to be doing some sort of other type of video, and the that is me explaining what I think about those. Okay, so you remember like months back, there's this Halloween series I did called Mike's Halloween Night, and I am going to explain to you pretty much about all these episodes. Mainly, I'm pretty much going to explain to you how I feel when making these episodes. So let's get to the point, shall we? Alright, so starting off, we are starting with episode 1, Preparing for Halloween. I didn't find this start of the series perfect, but at least it is a decent start, in my opinion, for what's going to happen next afterwards. This episode's nothing too crazy, considering it's really just the first episode. But it is a pretty decent start, though, considering that at the end of episode 1, you'll see, like, Jet the Killer smiling. You don't see his full face, but you'll see him, like, smiling and stuff at the very end. I think you do. I think you'll hear his voice or something. I don't know. But, yeah. That's all I really gotta say for this one. Alright, now we get to episode 2, Trick or Treat. Honestly, I wasn't as crazy as making this episode. Kind of like episode 1, I wasn't really feeling fucking hyped when I was making this as well, considering there was really not much there to be shown there. All it really shows is just Mike splitting up from the girls, exploring areas by himself while wearing the Ghostface costume, while the girls just go trick-or-treating. I think the only part I kind of like is where Albert Wesker appears. I think that's the only part I could really like, because I think that's the only part I kind of like is where Albert Wesker, like, appears. But that's really, like, the only thing I'm okay with. I think the ending is alright as well. I can't remember what the ending's about. I'm assuming, I think it's Jet the Killer sneaking up on Mike or something. Or something like that. Alright, so. Alright, so now we're getting to episode 3 called Something Is Wrong. I didn't get really hyped much creating this one either, except for the ending I was working on. I like the ending I did for this one. And I think another part I really enjoyed making is the fact I had fucking low tier God appear, and when they try to trick or treat from him, he's just talking massive shit to them. But honestly, the ending is where the ending is where things start getting a little interesting, in my opinion. Like, I pretty much just had fucking Ghostface, the actual Ghostface, kidnap Mike. And again, we don't know what happens next, but this is where we get to episode 4. Okay, so now we get to episode 4, the Ghostface. I kind of liked what I did with this one a little bit, but not too much. Honestly, I think, honestly, like, the fact that I had, like, the RPG battle type fights happen in this series, I could have done a lot better with the fight scenes, but it's whatever's, I guess. And, yeah, I could have done a lot better. But, I think this episode was alright. It wasn't too crazy. I think the battle fight, I think the RPG fight scene was pretty decent in my opinion. Although I could have done a lot better with the fight scenes anyway, but it's just whatevs. I think the part that I didn't really like what I did with this episode is where Sash and the other girls hated on Mike for a little bit because they thought that he actually tried to kill them, even though Mike is full well known for like. I mean, I guess in a way it makes sense considering there's two people wearing the Ghostface costume, so it is hard to tell which one's the real Ghostface and which one's Mike. Honestly, I could have just had it so I could have just made it so if Sash and and her friends did think that Mike was Ghostface or think that Mike was hurting them, I might make it so like Mike takes his mask off and I don't know. I could have done something better at the ending, but honestly, and also I think another part I like for this episode as well is where Mike is still strapped in his chair and Michael Myers slowly approaches him, about to kill him. So I think the fight scene and Michael Myers approaching Mike was probably the only good scenes I like when creating this episode. All right, episode 5. Yeah, episode 5. Coulter in trouble. Honestly, I am okay with this one I created. To be honest, I didn't really like making this episode now that I realized. Because I had this original idea for this episode where there's actually going to be like a chase sequence where like you actually get to see Coulter get chased by Ghostface around his entire house, which would have made this episode a lot better if I just took the time to do that. But because how lazy I was and how I wanted to get the series done as fast as possible before Halloween ends and all that, or like, well, before October ends, pretty much. Because I wanted to make the entire series for October, but I never get a chance to work on the rest of the episodes because when it was getting close to Halloween, I had to like really rush and all that. So that pretty much just fucked me at this point. Other than that, I think making this episode the way it is alright enough. But I could have loved it a lot more if I just made it like you actually see Coulter get chased by Ghostface for longer. Alright, on to episode 6 now. And 7. Alright guys, unfortunately I'm gonna have to split this into 2 parts because this fucking editor app is very limited. So I'll see you guys in part 2.